Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and this week's video is going to be all about the link reaction. Now, the link reaction is step 2 in the aerobic respiration process, and this video specifically focuses on what the details are that you have to know for the IB curriculum for the C1.2 unit, for the new syllabus, of course. And so, let's get straight into it. It's very simple. The link reaction is, I would say, the most simple step in aerobic respiration, so don't overcomplicate it, because if you do, I feel like that's just making it harder for yourself. If you're confused about the names or the steps, take it slowly and take the step one by one, but never forget that this is actually a very simple step. So where does the link reaction happen? Technically, the link reaction happens in the matrix, which is basically the cytoplasm of the mitochondria, but we often say that the link reaction's location is kind of intermediate in the sense that it links the cytoplasm and the matrix or the mitochondria. And now let's get into the actual steps. So if you remember, I have actually a video on the first step of aerobic and also what happens to the anaerobic respiration, and that is glycolysis. So if you want to do this step by step, then go watch that video first, because this is just a continuation of that and I'm breaking it up into small pieces. So what happened in glycolysis? Well, in glycolysis, we turned glucose to a pyruvate in the end. There were intermediate steps. Again, if you want to see them, go check that video out. But what we ended up with in glycolysis is a pyruvate, or more specifically, 2 times pyruvate. Now, because we're still in this aerobic respiration process, we're not just going to discard that. That's exactly what we're going to use for this next step. Now, I'll be showing you what happens to one singular pyruvate, so if you want to know what happens to a single glucose molecule, you just have to double that. So the first step, so to speak, is that the pyruvate travels into the matrix, which is again just the cytoplasm, but of the mitochondria. If you remember, the pyruvate was a 3-carbon molecule, so I'm going to sketch it with 3 carbons, which are represented by the circle. So now I'm actually going to create one long arrow here, because this is really basically it's not one step, it's not one reaction, but we kind of draw it as one. And the first thing that happens is that the pyruvate loses a carbon in the form of carbon dioxide, and this reaction is called decarboxylation. Now, decarboxylation, like the name might suggest, is just losing carbon, and often in biology it's in the form of carbon dioxide, but again, not always. Next, what we're going to do is that we now have this 2-carbon molecule. We are going to oxidize it. However, if you know anything about redox, and this is going to be a side note, you know that oxidation and reduction have to happen at the same time. So if we're oxidizing our 2-carbon molecule, what is getting reduced? And that's where NAD comes into play. NAD is an electron carrier, and if you remember, oxidation is loss of electrons and reduction is gain of electrons. So this NAD molecule will gain electrons and carry them to actually the electron transport chain, which is another step in the aerobic respiration, but I'll make a separate video about that. Let's just focus on the link reaction for now. So our third step is oxidation of our 2-carbon molecule. And what this results in is that we need an NAD molecule to be reduced. Again, this is because if we want to oxidize something, we have to reduce something else. And in this case, that's NAD. And lastly, the last step is the addition of the coenzyme A. And you can just denote it as that. And the way we represent that on the little diagram is you write it like this. And so what do we actually end up with? Well, we have lost 1 carbon here. We have not really changed anything about what we can know about the number of carbons. We just oxidized the molecule, but we've added also a coenzyme A. So in the end, we're going to end up with a 2-carbon molecule, and that has a coenzyme A attached to it, and we can represent that just in a box. And what this end molecule is called is acetyl-CoA. And why we add the coenzyme is because this coenzyme will allow this molecule right here to travel into the Krebs cycle. It will allow the acetyl-CoA to enter the Krebs cycle, which is really crucial because the Krebs cycle is very important, and that's the next step in aerobic respiration, which I will also make a video about. And so name-wise for the IB, you have to know pyruvate, you have to know carbon dioxide, you have to know NAD and reduced NAD, you have to know coenzyme A, and you have to know that you produce acetyl-CoA. So basically in this diagram, you have to know everything for this syllabus. But my suggestion would be that if you get a question about the link reaction or any reaction for that matter in, for example, cell respiration or in photosynthesis, you can actually get full marks by simply drawing and labeling a diagram like this one. And I would say that can save you a lot of time, but also is way safer because when you're writing an answer out, you tend to forget more little details, but here you're really making sure that you're adding everything. So this right here is our link reaction. As I've said, it's really simple. It composes of basically 4 steps. Over time, just practice by yourself, draw it out, explain it to yourself, and then you will definitely remember it. See you next week.